Hello everyone, this is Glenn Kendall with Concourse Hosting, and welcome to my webinar today, Tableau Paint by Numbers. Today we're going to be talking about constituent mapping. So we are going to be, for the next month or so, just focusing in and doing a lot with maps, calling it, for March Madness, we're doing Map Madness instead. It's not March yet, so we're just, there's so much to cover with maps. We thought we'd get things kicked off a little bit early here at the end of February and just do some basic introductory things related to maps. That's me. Company is Concourse Hosting, and we do secure hosting for organizations that have Blackbaud software as well as Tableau hosting and overall help with Tableau. Control panel for GoToMeeting. We're going to go ahead and accept questions during the webinar as we go here. I'm saying we, it's really just me here, but yeah, go ahead and enter your questions as you have them, and I'll keep an eye on that and try to answer the questions as you go. You can pop that question section out and just then collapse the rest of the GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar control panel. And you might want to move it down a little bit, just kind of, so it's out of the way so you can see more of the screen and what's going on here. So what we do here at Concourse is we basically work with nonprofits to help you utilize Tableau to see and understand your data better. So the first thing we do is really start out with Tableau, or rather we take your data from Razor's Edge and we turn it into a Tableau-ready data sources. So basically the data that you're used to seeing within Razor's Edge, that same data and those fields and all of that would be available within Tableau. We give you some ready-made visualizations and whatnot to get you going, training and support and that kind of thing. So yeah, we have some stuff to kind of get you going and get you jump-started with Tableau, and then after that you can, buy our brain and have us help you out with some custom things. So the series that I'm doing on a weekly basis is really just to help everybody get more familiar with Tableau, have you ask questions about it, just get your skills up as far as using this cool new tool. So today specifically we're going to be looking at, I guess, 2 things, maybe 3 things. We're going to start out by looking at field maps. So that is, we'll talk about what that means and all of that. Then we'll look at push pins. So these are like little locator things on a map. We'll talk about distance and different ways to look at distance and calculate distance, and then also how you can embed or link to Google Maps within your visualization. Okay. So starting out here, I use different methods really for pulling the data out. Like I said, here at Concourse, we have some ready-made data sources that you can use if you use Tableau with us, and that's all ready to go for you. But I don't typically like to demo that during these webinars because I want this to be something that is accessible and all of you can do. So I just want to start out with something that's just like, hey, you can start with just a query within Razor's Edge in order to get your data, and then we'll take that data and I'll show you how to put it into Tableau after that. But before I do this, just as kind of a high level, like why you would want to use for Tableau for mapping. Within Razor's Edge, they had a link or a hook, I guess, if you will. It's not really a link. It's more of a hook to a product that Microsoft used to have called MapPoint. So MapPoint, was a cool product in its day, but MapPoint was actually discontinued at the end of 2014. and support has been discontinued for it, so it's really like an obsolete product now. And you know, if you still have a copy of it, you can still use it, but the problem is like it's not being updated, and so you know, the mapping ability of it is going to deteriorate over time. So Tableau has a lot of great mapping capabilities built into it, so I just want to show you that as an alternative to maybe you've already been using MapPoint, you have some queries or whatever that are set up and connecting to MapPoint. Here's a way that you can transition away from MapPoint and do those same kinds of things in Tableau. So what are we looking at here? So I'm starting out, this is just, you know, I've built a query within Razor's Edge, and I'm basically going to be looking at, you know, we're pretending this is an alumni or university higher ed organization, and we're going to be looking at constituents from the state of Indiana, and we're going to be looking at those that gave for their last gift more than $200, or more than $199 or $200 or more, and then the last gift date was between these date ranges. Somebody asked, is this a gift query or a constituent query? This is a constituent query, but it doesn't really matter. You can pick a gift query if you want. The point is you have a query that's going to get you the data that you want. But in this case, I'm doing a constituent query. Okay, so that's my query, just so you know what I'm doing here. And then I have an export set up based on this query. So here's what I'm pulling out. Now, I'm just going to pull out the constituent ID. You would probably also want to pull out the person's name and stuff too. But for purposes of the demo here, I'm just going to pull out the ID. I'm going to pull out the address. And then some information about them. You know, maybe this is a data set that I can use for our gift officers. So if they want to go out and travel in the field and go and meet these people, they'll have a little bit of information about them. So I'm pulling out some other things here. I'm going to pull out what degree they got, what class they were from, and then I also want to see what their largest gift was, both the gift amount and the date, and then the last gift, both the gift amount and the date. Okay? And because I'm lazy, I just put address as one thing. I could go into the address here and pull it out as address line 1, address line 2, city, state, zip, all of that, but I'm just doing address. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run my export, and I'm going to save it to this, just do a CSV export. So real basic stuff, like all of you guys can do this sort of thing. Whatever your criteria is. If you want to map across the whole U.S., you can do that too, but we're just going to, just to limit the data set a little bit, we're just going to limit it just to the one state and pull this out. Okay, there it is. There's my export. Great. Any more questions about this? I'm going to transition away from Razor's Edge now and hop into Tableau. Okay, so I am using Tableau Desktop. This is Tableau Desktop 10.1. This is a paid product that you can get from Tableau. With our service, we give you Tableau Server, which is where you publish things that you create within Tableau Desktop 2 in order to share them. Now, you can also get a product called Tableau Public. That's free, and you can connect it to the Tableau Public server, which is also free. The drawback of that and why it's free is that everything you publish is out in the public for everyone to see. That's the name. So if you're just messing around, you can go ahead and use Tableau Public. It's free again, and you can play around with things. But if you're using real data, especially constituent data, you might not want to publish that on Tableau Public because, you know, it's personal information, private information. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to my workbook here, my Excel dump that I just did. And then when I go into Tableau, I'm going to find out here that because I put everything into address, it's all in one big column. Tableau doesn't know what this is. It's not sure. It's just, it sees it as a string. So when I try to drop this over into here to map it out, it's like, it's just a big string and it doesn't know what to do with it. So, and plus one of the things that I would like to do, even though I have addresses in here, what I would really like to do is know what the location, the geolocation is, latitude and longitude for those addresses. And that will allow me to get that push pin feature. That's one thing that was built into MapPoint, that that we need that latitude and longitude in order to be able to get the exact coordinates of where a person is. So how do you do that? I found this cool service called GiocoDo, and this is what I'm going to use. GiocoDo is free up to a point. You can use you can do 2,500 lookups on GiocoDo per day for free. So if you're just playing around, getting things started, this is a great tool that you can use. And so yeah, this is what I do is I go into here and I'm going to upload a file. So you just pick a file, drop your spreadsheet in here. So here's the one I just created. Crunch, GiocoDo starts looking at it now. So it says, error, please select city, state, or postal code. Well, because I was so lazy and I didn't do that in separate columns, I don't have that. I don't have street address, city, all of that in separate columns. But they have a little link here that says, only have a single column. My address is not in multiple columns. Boom, I just have that one address instead. So I can just click that, preview it, and yep, that's showing up in Indiana. Okay, so that looks good. So I'm just showing you that. I mean, I could have separated those out, but if for some reason your addresses are just in one column, this tool will not only parse them out for you, it'll also do the latitude and longitude, the geocode lookup. There's other stuff you can get from it as well. These count as a lookup, so it would count against your 2,500 lookups. If you wanted it to tell you what school district, census data, stuff like that, I could check these boxes, and then the output it's going to give me will include those bits of information in there as well. So I'll go ahead and hit continue and then start. And crunch, 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 here it goes. It is processing my records. So this is just going to take a few minutes to do. I researched other options out there for doing it, and there are different things. Bing Maps has one. But this one, GiocoDo, seemed to me to be the easiest to use and also the most generous in terms of having the biggest number of free lookups with just not having to pay for it. So, and there it is. Like, what did that take? Like a minute or so. All right, so now I'm going to download this. And so here it is. I'm going to Move this to my desktop. Okay, so now we'll close this and start up Tableau again. Any questions about that? About geocoding and GiocoDo? So just to show you real quick, before we hop into Tableau, what it did, let's look at what it did. Here's my addresses, non-parsed. Here's the other fields I had. Now it added these other fields: latitude, longitude, accuracy. So in some cases, I have an accuracy score of 1. That that means it could find it, and it would, it's confident that that's what it was. And if the accuracy score is lower, it wasn't as confident. And I can actually sort on this. So this might be useful for ones that have an accuracy score that are low. Say, like I can take any one who's 0.67 or less, and I'm just going to maybe get rid of these because we're not confident in them. Delete. How well does GiocoDo work with international addresses? I don't think it does international addresses. It does U.S. and Canada. So if you consider Canada international, then yeah, it might be. I'm sure there's other services that do international, but it does Canada as well. What is considered low regarding the accuracy score? I don't know. Probably, I would say probably 0.5 or less. It's really up to you. I think in these cases, probably 0.8 or 0.1 or 1. 1 obviously it got it, but yeah, I think it's just something you just have to play with yourself and see how it relates to your data. Okay, so cool. It gave me my latitude, gave me my longitude, some accuracy stuff. I didn't have to use it, whatever. But then it parsed all these things out. It parsed out the number, the street, the city, the state. Heck, it even looked up the county for me. I didn't even ask it to do that. Zip, and then the country. Sweet. All right, now it looks like I might have some real data to play with. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to start out with making a field map. How does a field map work? You pick something. So you notice over here now that those columns were parsed out. So address is just a string, but now city, country, county, state, zip, see how it has this little world thing next to it? Aha, that means Tableau knows that that is a data type that is a geographic role, and it'll know what to do with it. What about the addresses that did not have the number parsed? Not sure what that means. There might have been some bad data in there that didn't have the number parsed. Oh, for this one. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Maybe, I mean, it's not 100% accurate on parsing it. So we can look here. Maybe it starts with like East 7th Street, stuff like that. Maybe it's not a home address. Yeah. So it's not gonna, it's not hurting anything. we got what we paid for here. We got a free tool to do some parsing for us, and it did a pretty good job. Is it 100% accurate? Probably not. You'd have to test it out and see. But for our purposes here, we're just going to just look at the zip, and I think it did parse all those out correctly. All right, so we're just going to throw zip over here. And when I throw it into Tableau, in the rows and columns field, up here, it just puts it like that into an Excel-looking thing, but I don't want it to do that. I want to tell it, make a filled map. So Tableau has this Show Me section over here in the upper right that you can click on, and it'll automatically take you to the type of viz that you want to make. So we're starting out here with just making filled maps. So what Tableau does is it says, hey, okay, you gave me a zip code, and because you gave me a zip code, I'm going to generate latitude and longitude based on the zip code you gave me. So again, because these values over here that Tableau has identified as being geographic types, because it has a geographic role, like Tableau just built in, it's going to know what to do with it. All right, so just by default, basically, all that's done is made a filled map that says, here are zip codes. I will fill in the color if I have data that has that zip code in it, and that's it. If I want some more information, say like how many are in there, I can drag up the number of records. I can drag that up here to my color mark. And then when I do that, you can see that the color changes. So it gives me a range between, in this case, 1 and 158 records. How many records there are in that zip code varies. And over here I've got a lot. I've got 158, and a lot of the others I don't have as many records. This is just kind of a quick and dirty way to do a map. How much more detail to focus on? What if you had zip +4? Yeah, I mean, you could do zip +4. I don't know that Tableau does zip +4. Yeah, I don't think it does zip +4. I don't know what the breakdown is. You'd probably have to get some other map layer that has the +4 breakdown. I don't know if that's going to be super useful though. Like, what would you actually use that +4 for? Would that be really, you know, an important thing for you to know or not? Or would zip code just be enough detail? Okay. So a filled map is, you know, it's basic. We can do stuff like change the color if we want to. Somebody asked, can you show again what I did to get to the filled map screen? So all I did was take my zip code and drag it over here. And then I clicked on Show Me. So this in the upper right, so this is where you might want to move your GoToWebinar control panel out of the way, and then you can click on the filled map option here, and that's where the filled map comes up. Okay. So that's it. It's real basic. I want to spend a little more time on the pushpin stuff. That's a little more interesting and fun, but yeah, this is just like how to make a basic filled map. And of course, we can zoom in and get more information as we zoom in here, see more detail. Okay. And then as you're zooming in and doing stuff on the map, you can always hit this little reset icon, and it'll pop you back to where you were. Okay. Now we're going to do push pins. Push pin is I want to see an exact location on the map for all of my constituents that I have. So what Tableau did is it has this latitude and longitude that are generated. This is what Tableau has created based on these geographic roles for these other fields. But GiocoDo put in latitude and longitude. Now, Tableau breaks things down into dimensions and measures. Dimensions are categories of things. Measures are numbers. Tableau saw this. It saw that it was a number, and it saw that it's a latitude, geographic role of latitude, geographic role here of longitude. But we're going to have to change those over to dimensions, which I'll show you in a second, because when I drag these up here, so if you notice on my previous map, longitude was on the top as a column, latitude was on the bottom as a row. When I do that, it thinks it's a measure, so it's creating an aggregate value, in this case just the average. So by average, all the values I have in there, it averages out to be this location. But I don't want to do that. I want to see a push pin for everybody. So to do that, I say, show me this as dimension, not as a measure. So I'm going to change these both to dimensions instead. And now when I do that, I have dots on a map. Okay. So here in my dots, I have each one of these is a constituent with their latitude and longitude. So if we're creating something, let's say we want to make something for a gift officer that's useful for them so that they could go out in the field and see, you know, go and do visits for some of these people. So yeah, we have dots on the map now. We see latitude and longitude, but we need something that's a little more useful for them. So first of all, what we can do is we can go up here to Map, and then under Map Layers, we can go ahead and click on that. And these map layers over here are things that are built into Tableau that we can have it display. For example, streets and highways. That might be useful to show the streets and highways. We can do country and region borders. We can do county borders if we want to, zip code borders. We can do metro boundaries, place names. You can just play around with this and get different, you know, views of the map that you think might be more useful. I'm going to drill in here a little bit more. Here's Indianapolis. I can do, and then you can change the style as well. This is just light, but you can also do dark if you want to change your color contrast and have dark for some reason, and normal. So you can see it also shows the land cover in here as well, so I can see a little bit of the geographic features. So now it looks like something more like you would get on, you know, some other kind of map, like a Google map. So as you can see, as I mouse over these, it's just giving me the latitude and longitude. So instead, I'd rather, for my gift officers, that this gives them maybe a little bit more information instead. So I'm going to go ahead and close the map layers now, and we're going to work on just trying to make this a little more useful for them. So we'll start out with perhaps putting the city on the tooltip. What else would be useful to them? Well, we also got the gift amounts and the gift dates. So that might be useful. So this field here is the largest gift amount and the last gift amount, and also the largest gift date and the last gift date. So we can clean this up a little bit here, but we're starting to get some more useful information on there. Someone asked about drive time option. We're going to do distance in just a second here. So yeah, we can do things that calculate distance. I just want to show you, this thing here is called a tooltip, so that when I mouse over it, this is the information that's contained in there. Then if I just click on this, I can edit what information is in the tooltip. So I'm going to get rid of the latitude and longitude. It's useful because it obviously created the push pins, but I don't think that people need to know what it is. The city, we don't need to say the word city. It's kind of obvious. It's a city. And then we can call this largest gift. And then we can maybe put this in parentheses next to it, the date of it. And then we can say $sign in front of it. And we can say last gift. And put a $sign in front of that. Okay, let's see what that did. So I'm not putting the person's name in there, but you would also want to put their name in there, I'm sure. So this shows, hey, they're in Indianapolis. This was their largest gift and their last gift. So we can mouse over some of these and see what some of these are. The problem with doing that, though, right, is that I have to mouse over them in order to see all those things. So one thing that might be useful is to say, hey, is there a way that we can visually represent the larger gifts? How would we do that? We want to make the larger gifts appear larger on the map. People that gave more money. Let's just give this a whirl here. I'm going to drag up the larger gifts to size and play with the size here. So basically, bigger circle equals, means that they gave more money. The problem is there's some big discrepancy here. People that gave just a little bit of money, teeny tiny little dot. We can always edit the sizes here and maybe make it so it's not quite as exaggerated. Make the smallest one appear bigger. There we go. Well, that didn't quite do what I wanted it to. So you can play around with this and get it to something that makes sense for you. So the idea is that we just want to show some kind of visual representation without going too overboard here to say, okay, yeah, the bigger circles are the bigger GIFs. We could also do something with color. Color is another tool in our arsenal that we could use. Maybe for color, we could try something like the last GIF date. So if we did that with color, this will give us a sense of who gave when. And so the more recent ones will show up as one color, and people that gave, because I had originally done this over the last, I think, 5 or 6 years from 2010. Now you see when I drug that over, what it did was this value here of date is set up to be blue. And what that blue means is that it's actually a discrete value. It only is going by year. So this is too confusing. I got too many colors and I don't see how they relate to one another. I would just sort of have to memorize, okay, 2010 is the blue, so I want to look at those. Purple is good. So doing dates discretely like this might not give us really what we're looking for. So what I can do instead is I can undo that and go over here to my date, and I'm going to convert this to continuous. Now I'm going to drag it over. Now instead of just being discrete colors that are completely irrelated to each other, now it's giving me a continuum. Lighter is older and the darker is more recent. So based on this, I can have a better sense of when the older versus the newer GIFs are. Somebody said, why not use color? Yeah, we did. We're using color. So yeah, I think, you know, when you're thinking about this, we could, of course, do it the other way around. I could apply color to the gift amount and do the size for the date. But I think just intuitively, you would think more money is a bigger circle. I don't know. That's just me. But you can play around. You don't necessarily have to do it like this. You can play around with which parameters you want to associate with color, which one with size. So we can reset our map here. And here's the problem, is that we had this really big gift that kind of skewed everything. We might want to exclude that from our data. That's why we're seeing what we're seeing there. All right. So I'm going to get in and we're going to talk about distance a little bit now and how to calculate distance. And by the way, what I'm showing you here is I'm dragging around and stuff and moving around. When you publish something like this on Tableau Server, the users can do this themselves. Like, it's interactive. They can, you know, it's self-service. They can go in and make the map bigger, focus on certain things, and all of that. Just one of the cool things I want to show you that's just kind of built into Tableau that you can do right out of the box is you can do this radial selection. So over here on the map, you've got plus and minus, so that zoom in and zoom out. If I do the arrow like I was doing, that's the pan. So then I can pan around, you know, basically move where the center is to different places. And then there's this radial selection. So when I click on the radial selection, what I can do is I can pick a location. And let's say I want to pick this as my spot. And then I want to say, okay, find everything within a certain radius. So say within, you know, 2 miles or whatever of a certain location, 2.5 miles. And it'll just highlight all of those things automatically. So now I've highlighted those things on the map that are just within that distance. So that's pretty cool. Again, that's something that's just built in that you don't have to do anything extra for. You just kind of let your users know that, yeah, you can do that. You can select a point on the map, like where you are, for example, and say, hey, I want to see all the dots on the map that are within a certain distance, 2 miles of my house or whatever, and it'll highlight just those locations. And now they have just those locations to work with. Another thing we can do, so we're going to get into some more complicated things now, is to calculate some distance. So to do that, I need to create some parameters. So to create a new parameter, you go up here and hit this little drop-down box right next to the dimensions, and you say create parameter. And I'm going to call this my latitude. It's going to be float, which means it can have a decimal in it. It's going to have 4 the current value. Well, I need to figure out where I'm going to start from. Where's a good place to start from in Indianapolis? Let's do, since I love football, Lucas Oil Stadium. That's where we're starting from. All right. So that's the latitude and longitude of Lucas Oil Stadium. So you could always look up the latitude and longitude of your location if you wanted to as well. So we'll put in my latitude as a float, and then we can format the number. Say it's going to be a number. It's going to have 4 decimal values. And we want to show it. So that way I could change it over here. People could just type in what they want. My longitude. This value here. Negative. Does anyone know why it's negative? Why are the latitudes in North America negative? So the longitudes are negative, rather. Did I say latitude? I said latitude. The latitudes are not negative, if you're paying attention. Longitudes are negative. The latitudes are positive because we are north of the equator. The longitudes are negative because we are west of the prime meridian. So if you're just throwing it in there, positive, negative. Okay. Now I need to create a calculated field. I'm going to call my calculated field distance. For bonus points, does anyone know how to calculate the distance between latitude and longitude locations on a map? You were paying attention in trigonometry class, right? All of you? You all know how to do that? Yeah, it turns out it's actually really complicated. So I have a cheat sheet here that's going to help me out instead. This is the formula for doing it. Some cosine, a cosine, sine, all that good stuff. Yep, that's the formula. 3959, that means is going to be calculated in miles. You put a different number in there if you're doing kilometers. It says I got an error because it's not starting latitude. That was when I was playing around with it. I called it starting latitude before, but now I'm calling it my latitude. So now I have to change it. Okay, where'd it go? Distance. So now we can drag distance up here. We can put it in our tooltip. Well, because I formatted the tooltip, it's not going to put it in there. What did I do wrong? I think I have to insert it. It doesn't know that it's a value. There we go. Oh, it's sum. Okay. So Lucas Oil Stadium is down here somewhere apparently, and then as I get further away, this is my distance in miles. I can also throw this on the label. Make it bigger. So then you can see just quickly on the map from my starting point, like here's how far away these are in miles. It's not driving distance, obviously it's just as the crow flies distance, but it still gives you a good idea of the distances that are involved here. And you could always edit these, change your starting latitude and longitude, and you would have updated values for that. Or we could also filter on distance. So we could take distance, drag it up here to the filter, and then say we want anything between 0 and 10. Just kind of a quick way to do that as well. If you were to give this to, can't see what that says, DOs to use, could they enter their current traveling address and have it generate latitude and longitude and calculate distances on the fly? Well, I think one of the things you could do is you could link it to Google Maps. And so if they actually wanted to go to one of these locations, say, yeah, I want to go here, like how can you have it then link to Google Maps? That's how you would have that part work. So that's what we're going to do next. Any other questions about this before we link it to Google Maps? So Google Maps, there's a few ways to do the link to Google Maps. It can be a little bit tricky because Google doesn't want you to be able to do what we're going to do. They want you to use their API. So you can sign up with Google, use their API for free. It's similar to GiocoDo where you can get so many for free. And you just put the API key in there and stuff. But it can be a little bit complicated to go and figure out all of the JavaScript and other things that you have to do to get that to work. And if you're not a coder type person, that's probably not going to be up your alley. Another thing you can do is this kind of little cheat that I have that I actually want to show you where I got this information from. I read this blog from this other organization called Data Plus Science. And this is where I got this from. They have an article about how to embed Google Maps in Tableau. Yeah, if you don't have the API, you'll get an error message when you try to do it. One workaround that they have is basically if you put it in an iframe of something, then you can get around that. Without going into all the details about explaining what an iframe is, basically they have set up an iframe themselves that you can use, and so have we. So just host it on our website. I have just a little simple page with the code that's necessary for you to be able to embed something from Google Maps. So what you do is, in order to do things like this, you go up to Worksheet here, then you go to Actions, and then you add an action, and then this is where you can add a URL. We're only doing this on Sheet 2. I'm going to call this Google Maps, and we're going to put in the URL. So what are we doing here? So in the URL, it's going to our website, to this frame, and then within there, it is calling Google Maps and saying, hey, Google Maps, can you please display me this location with this latitude and this longitude? And these are just parameters that it's getting, that's being passed from when I select something. So it'll send that latitude and longitude for whatever it is I select. So I can do it on hover or on select. I'm going to do it on select. So we'll give that a try. I'll go into here, and then when I click on something, I click on one of those, now it's sending me the map. This is where this is located at. Probably this person's house here, but this is where the geolocation put it at. And so then your gift officer could always click on directions here, and away they go. So yeah, again, that was up here in Worksheet. You go to Actions, you create a URL, and we'll go ahead and send this out after the webinar, so you'll have these cheat codes that are in here. But this is what I'm doing is I'm embedding in this, it's linking to our site, which has this page, which has an iframe, which basically then turns it around and it just calls Google Maps for whatever location I click on. And boom, there it is. Yeah, they live out in the woods wherever they are. But yeah, that's it's a really cool little thing that you can do to connect Google Maps. Zoom out here a little bit. Okay. Are there any final questions about anything we did here, about the Google Maps link, or just anything that we covered here today? So again, we're going to be doing a lot with maps over the course of the next several weeks. Next week, we're going to be looking specifically at custom regions. So within Tableau, it has basic sort of civic boundaries built in, things like zip code boundaries, state boundaries, obviously. But if you want to have a region, say you want the Northeast region or these group of states because you have a gift officer that's assigned to a certain region, things like that, show you ways that you can create your own custom regions in Tableau. Well, cool. I hope this was helpful. This gives you guys the tools to be able to do some very basic constituent mapping. You learned about geocoding connected to Google Maps. You learned a little about distance. And yeah, please fire away if you have any questions. I'm sure you have some questions. Please go ahead and fire away and let me know. Okay, if there aren't any other questions, I'm going to hang out here just for another minute or two. If somebody does end up having some questions, I'll go ahead and stay on the line. Otherwise, we'll be letting you all go. Thanks again for coming, and again, we'll go ahead and send, after this, a link to those things that we did on the cheat sheet, just so you have that information and you can embed this in your Tableau visualizations that you create. All right, thanks so much. Have a great day.